Everyone thinks the 737 MAX disaster was a software glitch. They're wrong. The truth behind the Boeing 737 MAX crashes runs far deeper than a simple software bug. It's a harrowing tale of corporate pressure, a relentless pursuit of profit, and a deeply flawed design process that ultimately sacrificed safety for speed to market. This isn't just about code, it's about culture. For decades, Boeing was synonymous with aviation excellence. Their engineering prowess was legendary, their aircraft the backbone of global air travel. But by the early 2000s, cracks began to show. A merger with McDonnell Douglas in 1997, intended to create an aerospace titan, instead introduced a new, more aggressive corporate philosophy. The focus shifted from engineering first to shareholder value. Cost-cutting became paramount. Engineers, once revered, found themselves battling financial executives. This internal struggle laid the groundwork for future compromises, particularly when a new threat emerged from their European rival, Airbus. Airbus was developing the A320neo, a fuel-efficient upgrade to their popular single-aisle jet. Airlines, always keen on saving fuel, were lining up to buy it. Boeing needed a response, and they needed it fast. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were immense: market dominance in the lucrative single-aisle segment. Rather than embarking on the costly and time-consuming process of designing an entirely new aircraft, Boeing opted for an upgrade to their existing 737, a design dating back to the 1960s. This decision, driven by financial expediency, would prove to be one of the most fateful in the company's history. The problem was the new, larger, more fuel-efficient CFM LEAP 1B engines. They wouldn't fit under the 737 existing wing without changes. To maintain ground clearance, Boeing engineers had to mount the engines further forward and higher up on the wing. This seemingly minor modification had significant aerodynamic consequences. These new engine placements caused the aircraft to have an inherent pitch-up tendency, particularly at high angles of attack. In certain flight conditions, the nose of the plane wanted to rise uncontrollably, increasing the risk of a stall. This was an unacceptable flaw for a commercial airliner. Boeing's solution was the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS. This software system was designed to automatically push the aircraft's nose down if it detected a high angle of attack, counteracting the aerodynamic instability. It was meant to make the MAX fly like previous 737. But MCAS had critical design flaws. It relied on input from a single angle of attack, a sensor. If that sensor failed and provided erroneous data, MCAS would activate based on bad information, repeatedly pushing the nose down, potentially sending the aircraft into an unrecoverable dive. Compounding the problem, Boeing chose not to disclose the existence of MCAS to pilots in their flight manuals. The rationale was that the system only activated in unusual flight regimes, and therefore, pilots didn't need to know about it. This decision proved catastrophic. Furthermore, a crucial safety feature that would have compared readings from two sensors, alerting pilots to a discrepancy, was offered as an optional extra. Airlines had to pay more for it. Many didn't, further eroding the safety net. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, responsible for certifying aircraft in the U.S., also came under scrutiny. Due to budget cuts and a policy of delegating more responsibility to manufacturers, the FAA relied heavily on Boeing itself to perform much of the certification work. This self-certification model, while ostensibly efficient, created an inherent conflict of interest. Boeing was essentially grading its own homework. Whistleblowers later revealed intense pressure within Boeing to accelerate the certification process for the MAX. The stage was set for tragedy. On October 29, 2018, Lion Air Flight 610, a Boeing 737 MAX-8, departed Jakarta. Just minutes after takeoff, the aircraft began to experience erratic pitch movements. The pilots fought desperately to regain control. Investigators later determined that a faulty sensor was feeding incorrect data to the MCAS system. MCAS repeatedly pushed the nose down, overriding the pilot's attempts to pull it up. Without knowing about macaws, they were battling a ghost in the machine. The flight ended in a catastrophic dive into the Java Sea, killing all 189 people on board. The aviation world was shocked, but Boeing maintained the aircraft was safe, focusing on pilot error as a potential factor. Less than 5 months later, on March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, another 737 MAX-8, took off from Addis Ababa. The story tragically repeated itself. Again, a faulty hour sensor, again, macaws driving the nose down. The pilots, despite following emergency procedures for runaway trim, the closest equivalent they knew, were unable to overcome the relentless downward force. All 157 passengers and crew perished when the aircraft impacted the ground. This second crash, so eerily similar to the first, made it undeniable. There was a fundamental flaw in the 737 MAX. Countries around the world began grounding the aircraft, leading to an unprecedented global fleet grounding. Investigations revealed the systemic failures. The corporate culture at Boeing, prioritizing profit over safety, the inadequate oversight by the FAA, and the deliberate obfuscation of critical information to pilots. It was a perfect storm of negligence. Boeing faced immense public backlash, billions in financial losses, and a deep blow to its once unblemished reputation. The company was forced to redesign the macaw's software, implement additional safeguards, and provide extensive pilot training. The 737 MAX eventually returned to service after a 20-month grounding, but the scars remain. The tragedy serves as a stark reminder of what happens when corporate ambition overshadows engineering integrity, and when the pursuit of speed compromises fundamental safety. It's a cautionary tale, not just for the aviation industry, but for any sector where innovation and profit can, if unchecked, lead to devastating consequences. The 346 lives lost are a permanent testament to that imbalance. If you're curious about other corporate implosions driven by ambition, you'll want to see our deep dive into the Rhinos next.